You know what time it is? It's time for the Week 4 preview. So, without any further ado, let's get into the matchups. First, it's going to be me, the Titty Twisters, versus Taylor Watson, Turmoil in your twat. All right, quarterback, we've got Derek Carr for me. Man, losing Ben Roethlisberger really hurt for me. Going against Ryan Tannehill for Miami. This is kind of a toss up, but I'm going to go against the ESPN pick and actually pick Derek Carr. The last two games, he's put up 26 and 20. The first game, he got 2 points, but that's because he injured his thumb. I said I was cautiously bullish about the Oakland offense this year at the beginning of the year, and nothing that I've seen is really dissuading me from that. Plus, they're going against a Chicago defense that is just fire sailing all of their good players and just seems to have already given up on the season. Ryan Tannehill looked really bad last week against a good defense, and I don't see anything changing. Plays the Jets. They've also looked good, and they are second in the league against quarterbacks. And they've played two pretty high-powered offenses, at least one, Andrew Luck, Indianapolis, they only gave up 8.4 points that week. So look for Derek Carr to have a big week. Running backs, I've got Frank Gore and Joseph Randle. Taylor has DeMarco Murray and Lamar Miller. I'm going to give the edge to myself again here. Frank Gore looked to finally get it going. The entire Indianapolis offense really looked to get it going last week, and they're playing another crappy defense. The Jaguars have given up 4 points over the average NFL team. That's good for 27th in the league. DeMarco Murray he's still questionable, participating in practice, but those hamstring injuries are pretty lingering. Joseph Randle over Lamar Miller, that's purely just because of offensive line. I see them as both having about the same amount of talent. It's just that Joseph Randle runs behind the best offensive line in football. And also the New York Jets, who Lamar Miller is playing, are ninth against running backs. And if you watch the Buffalo-Miami game last week like I did, Miami looked bad in all facets, basically. Moving on to wide receivers. This is a little tougher than it would have been. Um, I've got Antonio Brown and Dante Moncrief. Taylor's got Sammy Watkins and Percy Harvin. Cautiously give the edge to myself, actually. Um, Antonio Brown would be obviously the number one choice, except he didn't record a single catch after Big Ben went down last week, and I really don't know what to think about him. I don't know what his chemistry is like with Michael Vick. I guess we'll see tomorrow. Dante Moncrief, again, been patting myself on the back for him pretty much the entire year. I think he has a big game. It's Jacksonville, and they are just pretty bad. They're not as bad as they are against running backs, but they're still pretty bad. Taylor's got Sammy Watkins and Percy Harvin. I think one of these two scores a touchdown. Watkins is not practicing, so I don't know. And even when Buffalo does throw, they seem to be spreading it around pretty good. They are facing a pretty fair to middle end defense. Tight ends, Jordan Reed for me going against Philly. Taylor's got Jordan Cameron. Man, Taylor's really going all in on this Miami offense. Both facing pretty stout defenses against the tight end. I'm thinking about playing Eric Ebron. So either way, it's kind of a toss-up. I don't know what to think. Flex, really not sure what I'm going to do here. I've got Marvin Jones in there right now, but Nicholas Piola has accepted a trade with me for James Jones, and I think I'd play him. Alfred Blue had a monster game last week against Tampa Bay, got 18 points, 31 carries. That's a lot of volume and a touchdown. I like Alfred Blue here, although it's closer if I put James Jones in there. Defense, I've got the Colts going against Jacksonville. Taylor's got the Cardinals going against St. Louis. Really don't agree with the ESPN pick here. It has me favored over Jacksonville, and I don't buy that at all. I think the Cardinals are going to destroy St. Louis, and I think they're going to get a lot of sacks and interceptions doing it. Kickers, don't care. Overall, picking myself to win, go to 3-1. Picking Taylor to go to 0-4. All right, our next matchup. Is going to be James Reinecke versus Bryan Jaska. Battle of 1-2 teams. Although I think Bryan Jaska has a better team, but he does have a couple of bye week players going. Waiting for this to load. Okay, so quarterbacks, we've got Andrew Luck for Team Andrew Luck. Ooh. And going against Peyton Manning for Jaska. Andrew Luck has a worrying shoulder injury. That's not good. I have to revisit that. If you've been paying attention, I really don't like Peyton Manning, but if Luck's injured, that doesn't bode well for Reinecke because that's basically all he has. Running backs, Reinecke's got TJ Yeldon and Danny Woodhead. Jaska's got Matt Forte, and he's starting Duke Johnson. I'm assuming if Sean McCoy is in line to start, he starts McCoy over Duke Johnson. That's kind of a toss-up without McCoy. I don't like Duke Johnson at all. Hasn't gotten over 4.5 points the whole season. And I do think Yeldon and Woodhead are better. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take Reinecke on this. Matt Forte is going up against Oakland, but after that shutout against Seattle and Jimmy Clausen still throwing the ball, I don't know what to think. Matt Forte didn't record a single catch last week either. Wide receivers, Reinecke's got DeAndre Hopkins and Vincent Jackson. Jaska's got Emmanuel Sanders and Brandon Marshall. I like Jaska's receivers. Emmanuel Sanders continues to have a pretty high floor. And I don't know much about Minneapolis's or Minnesota's pass defense, but I do like Brandon Marshall better than Vincent Jackson for sure. So I'm giving the edge to Jaska. Reinecke's got Jimmy Graham at tight end. Jaska's got Heath Miller, obvious edge to Jimmy Graham. Had a touchdown in a big week last week. Heath Miller's going to have Michael Vick throwing him the ball, and I think he's terrible. So definite edge to Reinecke. Flex, Reinecke's got Doug Martin versus Carolina. Jaska's got Larry Fitz versus St. Louis. I like Larry Fitz. He's had a couple monster weeks, and I think he continues that trend. He's really looking like the Larry Fitz of old with Carson Palmer throwing him the ball. Reinecke at defense, Reinecke has Packers D going against San Francisco at San Francisco. Jaska has a couple people on buys. He needs to pick up a defense and a kicker. Both his kicker and defense are on buy right now. Got to be something on the waiver wire. I like the Packers play, but do know that the only time San Francisco scored any points, it was at home. The other two times they were playing on the road. See, anything that I would change? Jaska, you need to drop or trade some of these wide receivers. Having to leave Steve Smith on your bench. I don't know where you sub him in, but him and Rashard Matthews should be on somebody else's team at this point. I do like the Thomas Rawls pickup. If Lynch doesn't go, you're definitely subbing him out for Duke Johnson. Overall, I picked Jaska. Next matchup, we've got Richard Crum, Tom Brady softballs versus Gronky punch. I think Richard's gonna roll in this game. I think Richard's got a good team, even though he does have Tom Brady on bye. At quarterback, we've got Andy Dalton for Richard going against Russell Wilson for Bryan. I like Russell Wilson, although it's closer than I would think. Andy Dalton's looked good so far, showing good touch on his deep ball. He's run, I think, at least one touchdown in, maybe more. But edge to Russell Wilson, he's the proven commodity. Running back, Jamal Charles, Latavius Murray for Richard. Bryan's got Marshawn Lynch, Jonathan Stewart, obvious edge to Crum, even if everybody was healthy. Marshawn Lynch isn't healthy. He's 50-50 to play. Jonathan Stewart is probable with a calf injury, but still, it doesn't matter. I think Jamal Charles and Latavius Murray is probably the best running back duo in the league this year. Wide receivers, we got T.Y. Hilton and Allen Robinson for Crum, going against Mike Evans and Terrence Williams for Bryan. Like Crum's wide receivers, although I do think he should sub out Allen Robinson for Calvin Johnson, even though he is going up against a good cornerback this week. Mike Evans did get 7 catches and 101 yards. I probably like him better than T.Y. Hilton this week because I still don't know how healthy he is. But Terrence Williams looked very uncomfortable in the number 1 wide receiver role, especially with a new quarterback, Brandon Weeden. They look to just be running the ball more and more, and I expect that's what they'll do against New Orleans, who doesn't really have a very good run defense. Tight ends, Bryan, you need to pick somebody up. Gronkowski's on a bye. That's your best player. Crum starting Tyler Eifert, who should have had a touchdown last week. I like Eifert. I think he's one of the top 5 tight ends. Yeah. I don't think anybody Bryan can pick up because he refuses to trade or make reasonable trades. I think he'll have to pick one up off the free agent list, and none of those are going to be better than Tyler Eifert. At flex, we got Carlos Williams and Matt Jones, the 2 big waiver wire pickups of the last 2 weeks. New York has actually had never mind, after last week. New York gives up a good bit on the ground. Philly doesn't. Although Matt Jones is the clear number 1, I think, in Washington right now. They seem to be giving him more snaps than Alfred Morris. Carlos Williams is number 2 behind LaShawn McCoy, but he runs hard, has had a couple big weeks, but his touchdown rate is definitely unsustainable. Close. If McCoy plays, I give the edge to Matt Jones. If he doesn't, edge to Carlos Williams. Defense, obviously, Crum's got Broncos D going against Minnesota. Bryan's got Texans going against Atlanta. Broncos is the best defense in football right now, and they're facing a pretty bad offense, whereas the Texans are facing probably one of the top 5 offenses in football right now. Edge to Richard. Kickers don't care. Richard moves on, goes to 3-1. Bryan's fall from grace continues. Okay. Next matchup will be James Nash versus the Wu-Tang Clan for Alex Piola. Let's see, Nash. At quarterback, we've got Matt Ryan going against Houston. Piola's got Aaron Rodgers, edge to Aaron Rodgers. He's looked fantastic. He's the best quarterback in the league. Running backs, we've got Melvin Gordon and Bishop Sankey. Bishop Sankey's on bye. Nash, you want to look at something else. Carlos Hyde and Chris Johnson for Piola. Let's see. Let's look at your roster, Nash. Well, obviously you're going to sub in Eddie Lacy, actually. So yeah, edge to Nash on this one because Eddie Lacy looks to be back healthy. He's not on the injury report. Melvin Gordon's been looking a little better the last couple weeks. I don't think Carlos Hyde's going to get enough attempts with Green Bay. I think Green Bay is going to be up big, and I think they're either going to pull their starters or just be throwing the ball the entire game. Chris Johnson's flashing what seems to be his old self in Arizona this year, but Andre Ellington's coming back, and they've got to get David Johnson on the field some. So I just think that eats into his carries a little bit, whereas Lacy and Gordon are kind of at the top of their depth charts. Wide receivers, this is close. I'm actually going to go with Nash, even with Piola's Julio Jones. I just think the combination of Odell and AJ is better than Julio and Brandon Cooks. Odell and AJ for Nash. Julio and Brandon Cooks for Piola. Obviously, like Julio the best out of the four, but Odell and AJ are both top 10, if not top 5 wide receivers. Cooks really hadn't shown it to me. Had a lot of inconsistency at quarterback and just doesn't seem to catch many of his targets. Tight end, Nash has got Jason Witten. Piola's got Travis Kelce. I like Kelce here. He's the number 2 tight end in the league right now. Don't see that stopping against Cincinnati. And plus, Jason Witten's kind of old and kind of banged up. Flex play, we got Isaiah Crowell for Nash and CJ Spiller for Piola. Assuming Nash doesn't put in John Brown, which I would do, I think he's a great deep threat. I still like Nash's flex. I still like Isaiah Crowell better than CJ Spiller. I hate CJ Spiller. Defense and special teams, Nash has got Ravens going against Pittsburgh tomorrow night. Piola's got Bills going against New York Giants, who Eli hasn't actually thrown a pick this season, but their offensive line is kind of porous. Closer than it looks because Pitt's starting Michael Vick. I don't know how good he's going to be. It is the Thursday night game. You got to favor a defense in a Thursday night game. Still going to pick the Bills, but closer than it should be. I'm going to pick Nash to win this matchup. Yeah, I'm picking Nash, but it's going to be close. Okay. Our last matchup is going to be Nicholas Piola versus Corbman. Nicholas is going to be getting Greg Olsen from me as his tight end. He's trading me James Jones. So the tight end position is filled. At quarterback, we've got Drew Brees for Piola going against Phillip Rivers. If Brees plays, I still think Mariota might even be a better pick. Dallas has been pretty good against quarterbacks this year. Actually 7th in the league against quarterbacks this year. Rivers did look pretty bad last week and actually got benched on the last drive, I think. So close, but I think Nick should start Mariota because Brees' arm wasn't that strong anyway. Running backs, Adrian Peterson and Mark Ingram for Piola going against Le'Veon Bell and Arian Foster, which Corbman has put in his lineup wishful thinking. If Arian Foster does play and he's healthy, I expect him to gash Atlanta's defense. So if Arian Foster plays, I'll probably give the edge to Corbman. Le'Veon Bell, I expect Pittsburgh to lean on him even more than they usually do. They've got a fantastic offensive line. Le'Veon Bell is probably one of the most talented backs I've seen this year. And he's fresh off the suspension. Hopefully he channels his inner Tom Brady. So edge to Corbin on that one. Wide receivers, Got Randall Cobb and Amari Cooper for Piola, Demaryius Thomas and Keenan Allen for Corbman. I like Piola's running backs or wide receivers. Randall Cobb had a monster game, seems to be settling into his role as the number one wide receiver in Green Bay. Amari Cooper, said it before, I think he might even be Offensive Rookie of the Year this year. I think he's incredible. Demaryius Thomas and Keenan Allen just seem to be kind of boom or bust. Well, Demaryius Thomas is kind of steady actually, but just not as much as doesn't provide the upside that either of those other two guys do with Peyton Manning throwing him the ball. Keenan Allen's definitely boom or bust. He's either going to score 2 touchdowns or none. Tight end, by Sunday, Nicholas will have Greg Olsen, and Corbin will have Martellus Bennett. I like Olsen, even though Bennett is going up against the worst tight end defense. Wow, they're giving up 12 more points to tight ends than the average NFL team. That's incredible. But they're still going to have Jimmy Clausen throwing the ball. I like Olsen. He's a target hog. Flex, we've got Devontae Freeman for Piola, Jeremy Hill for Corbin. Jeremy Hill, I thought I had a lot of higher hopes for him this year. I might actually sub him out for Gio or Alshon Jeffrey if he plays. I don't know. I just don't like Jeremy Hill. He seems to be kind of in the doghouse. Devontae Freeman, assuming Tevin Coleman doesn't play, he had a monster week last week. I don't think anybody needs to be reminded of that. So yeah, I'm going Devontae Freeman on this one. Defense, we got Seahawks going against Detroit for Piola. Panthers going against Tampa Bay for Corbin. Both are good plays. I like the Seahawks better. I think they're more talented, and there are some troubling rumors about people being able to pick up on the play calls for Detroit. So, if anybody can take advantage of that, it's the Seahawks. Kickers don't care. I expect Piola to move to 3-1, Corbin to fall to 1-3. Although it's going to be closer if Arian Foster plays. So yeah. All right, to recap, I'm picking myself over Taylor in a closer matchup than it has us projected. I think both of us will score more points than our projections. Jaska to win against Reinecke. Crum to beat Bryan badly. I'm picking Nash to beat Piola and Little Piola to beat Corbman. So that's my recap for the week, and I'm sticking to it.